All right, guys, I wanted to film a little vegetable plant tour here in the spring. If anything, just for myself, but we might share it on YouTube. I'm not sure yet. But we've got all our indoor plants out here hardening off. This is day, I think, 5 or 6 of them hardening off. And the beds are getting back to normal after we installed this patio amongst the kind of keyhole style garden. As you can see, we still don't have wood chips down. Must do. You can see there are weeds climbing in. This bell stuff just is incessant. I can't keep it out of the bed, so I need to get some wood chips down, get that taken care of. But yeah, patio turned out well, and yeah, I'm going to walk you through what we got going on right now. So right here, these first plants, these are San Marzano Plum tomatoes. Here on the end, you have some Romas. Got some random jalapenos here on the end. I just didn't have space. Then we've got our 2 most impressive trays. This one right here is Roma tomatoes, and I believe it's fully Roma tomatoes. I could be wrong. No, these are red cherries on the end. So red cherry tomatoes, Roma tomatoes. And over here, this one's looking the best. We have, these are Brandywine Red Tomatoes, and I believe Ponderosa Reds on that end. And those are nice and big. You can see here in comparison to my hand, they're getting up towards, probably getting close to 15, 16 inches tall. Then we've got this home save variety. Somebody had given me some seeds, and this is known as a Finley River Heirloom from Missouri. I think it's technically a cousin of the Arkansas Walker, maybe, tomato, or the Stein Heirloom. But yeah, there's that, and then we have some snapdragons growing there. I can't remember what variety. We have a little lone California bell that actually is outperforming all of its friends in different pots. It was a poor transplant, so I just stuck it in one of these just to see if it would take off, and it did better than all the rest. Here we have some cilantro, which I did a little bit of a test. This is cilantro from just straight up seed. I didn't split the seeds. I ran a test with somewhere I split the seeds, which is something you can do because there's 2 plants in each seed. And I think overall they're pretty much the same. I need to get them next to each other and just double check that, but I think they're pretty much the same. They germinated a little bit slower, and some of the plants were a little closer together, but overall same production. Sage here, we've got random jalapeno and another California green wonder bell pepper, and some thyme here. Some rosemary from seed, which I was telling my wife the other day that I think out of all these big beautiful plants, the one I'm most proud of is this guy right here, because it's so hard to start rosemary from seed, and these have taken forever, but they're looking good. I think they're going to do well. I think they'll be big beautiful plants next year. Here we have some, this is, I'm trying to figure out which one's which. This one is spearmint, and this one is standard mint. You can tell the difference in the leaves when you get closer. Those are a little more crinkled on the regular mint, and these are a little bit flatter. Yeah, here's the cilantro from the experiment, looking about the same, honestly. And then you have some parsley in here as well, and right here and right here, I believe. And then thyme, a little more thyme, and some Brussels sprouts, which need to be in the ground. And then we have this beautiful dill that's growing in here. Doing that over, I probably would start that in a bigger pot. Same with the oregano, it's doing well. It looks like it's not, but it really is. Those are just kind of outgrown and they're kind of laying over. These are some Boston pickling cucumbers, which I started just like almost 2 weeks ago, I think. So they're getting ready to go in the ground. We've got Genovese basil, which I think, doing some research, somehow some sweet basil ended up in that packet. We've got Italian large leaf basil, which this one plant got a little bit of sun scald. Same with this Genovese. and then some Shasta daisies back there. And then on to the peppers. We have jalapenos over here. We have a couple Hungarian sweets. These are all Hungarian sweet peppers. And these are Ancho Grande hot peppers. Ancho Grande. And then these are all California Wonder green bell peppers over here. Moving on into the garden. Like I said, it's not in its best shape because it's still kind of recovering from all the foot traffic and everything that came with putting in this patio. So this whole end up here was basically destroyed, and I'm in the process of getting it back together. We've got 5 red acre cabbage. One died there in the middle. I broke the stem when I was planting it. Didn't have another transplant, so we'll put an herb there when it's time. Some red acre cabbage are looking good. They're pretty large leaves. Then over here, I planted a cut and come again lettuce bed, and they're coming up just now, and I'm sure those empty spots will fill in. And then here we have our transplanted lettuce from Plugs, which we're gonna treat this bed as cut and come again as well. I might leave a couple icebergs in there to see if they make a head, but everything else, we will harvest the outer leaves and just eat salads. But you have oak leaf lettuce, you have a gourmet mix, you have iceberg up the middle, you have bronze mignonette here, which I just love the color of that. And then you have Tom Thumb, which this one looks the most delicious to me. These little heads. It doesn't have great germination rates. Again, that's the same, I put them in the same order over here. And you can see we have this whole empty row here, which there's probably 20 seeds in there. They're just none of them germinated. So that's what we got so far. And now we've got the carrot bed, which will be this 4x4 square, not 4x4 square, but I've separated it into 4 squares. So one over here, one over here, one here, and one here. And we planted these first. We did them under a board, like Jess from Roots and Refuge Farms, and had just okay germination. There's a couple plants that are a couple varieties in here. I can't tell you the varieties off the top of my head, but these 3 varieties here did not do very well. This variety on the end, however, which is I believe red core chutney red core carrots, they germinated well. And so I decided we would go ahead and that's what we would sow here entirely, because they germinated so well with that method. So if you look really close here, you can see little carrot seedlings popping up, and we'll thin those out to 1 inch apart when they get about this size. So we need to thin those as well. Another thing about this under a board method is, I don't know if it's roly-polies or something else, but somehow seeds have escaped and they're just littered along this area. And so they're in the onions and all sorts of stuff, but they should be fine in there. I'm gonna let them grow to maturity. They're plenty spaced out, of course. So yeah, we will come back in here in 2 weeks in succession sow more carrots. And then moving on to the onion bed here, we have special, I think it's SP special bunching onions, both of these rows here, and they're coming along nicely. These ones on the end that have a little more room to root out obviously are doing a little bit better than the ones on the inside, so that's something to note. But they are coming up nice. They'll be ready for a harvest here pretty quick. And then here we have white Spanish onions, and when we get over to these 3 rows, these are all yellow Spanish onions. Now, upon research, I'm not entirely sure if we're gonna get a harvest out of these or not. It's really difficult to figure out which one's long day, short day, and we fall right in the middle of the line in Nashville, so it's hard to tell what's going to be great. We probably should be growing intermediates, but we're just going to see what comes up and what happens. Just a little experiment. We'll know how to move forward next year if it all fails. Down here in this bed, it is destroyed by tracks from the little bobcat they use to put in the patio, and so I still have to fix that. I just fixed the other side over here yesterday. You can see it kind of came back around. Still needs to be surrounded by wood chips, of course, but yesterday, which was April 16th, I sowed beets. These are Detroit red beets that'll be in here. 4 rows of them, 2 seeds, 1/2 inch deep, 4 inches apart, 12-inch rows, and I'll thin those down to 1 plant per area there, per 4 inches. Then over here we sowed French breakfast radish on this side and cherry radish on this side. And as we get through the growing season, I'll probably just intercrop those with other crops, but since I didn't have anything growing in this bed yet, and tomatoes are what is going in here, I just figured it's not going to hurt the tomatoes or anything, and these will be done cropping over here for the most part by the time the tomatoes are even ready to go in, or close to it at least. So that end of the bed still needs to be repaired, just like the front. We'll come on over here, show you the last bit of it. We've got this side trellising row, which will have a cattle panel trellis going along the back of that. 16 foot long, 2 foot wide, and about 5-6 inches deep in compost. So we'll get that set up, and then you see all these annoying birch seedlings have fallen off my really tall river birch tree, and so they need to be taken care of as soon as possible, but I gotta wait for this tree to stop dropping them. So here in the back we have our sugar snap peas. They really need to be trellised like yesterday, but I'm waiting on getting my truck back from a buddy who's borrowing it because his car's broke down. So as soon as I have that back, we'll have the trellis up. But then in front, I went ahead and sowed lettuce. These are direct sown here, and they're doing well. And then these back here were transplants. They just did not germinate well as transplants. I say they didn't germinate well. They actually did germinate well, but something about the conditions, the roots didn't want to go all the way down. And so there were some of the plants that just kind of lived on top. And so they never really rooted down. So I only got 3 out of my, I think, 12 transplants, I think. But so we learned our lesson there. Direct sow spinach here. And then over here, we direct sowed turnip greens. I'm debating what these are turnips for greens only. These are 7-top turnips. And I'm debating if I want to, sorry for the helicopter. Sorry, not a helicopter, a jet. I live near an airport. But here is the 7-top turnip greens. I densely planted these because I didn't know what would germinate, how they would come up, and they have come up really well, but I'm not sure if I should thin them or not, because these are not turnips for turnip's sake, not to get a bulb, We're just cutting the greens on these, and so I don't know if I should thin them, if they'll kind of thin themselves like lettuce does, but I'm going to do some research on that and figure it out. I think standard spacing is like 4 or 5 inches or something, so there's a lot of plants in there I'd have to thin if that's the case. We'll see. And then behind it, we have early Frosty peas growing there, again needing to be trellised. Down here, the rest of this will be cucumbers and squash and things that can be trellised over here. And again, in this bed, this will be the tomatoes across the back of this, and we will still plant in the front of it. And I believe I can get 7 tomato plants in here. Obviously, I have way more than that, and I'm going to be selling some of these soon, I believe. They're all organic, and so I just feel like I can get top dollar for them. They've been treated with love and care, and I've put too much work into them just to let them sit in a pot and die. So I'm definitely going to get some of those sold, I believe. And yeah, oh, just one last little bonus for you. Had a family member on my wife's side give us some random plants here out of her perennial area in her garden. These are petunias of some sort, and these are Matt's wild cherry tomatoes. Got a little bug on there, get off there. But they just supposedly just come back year after year, and they're a cherry tomato, and supposedly they're really tasty, and you just can't kill them, she says. And then this is a house plant. This is a Kimberley Queen Fern somebody gave us that we thought was fake. When they gave it to us, it looked fake. It was in like a cheapy wooden holder when we moved into our house, and they gave it to us as a housewarming gift. And this was covered, so we couldn't see the label, so we didn't know this is a real plant. We let it sit in there, dry out, and die. Over the winter, I stuck it outside, and look here. There's some growth coming back. Now, I don't know if that's weed growth, just from weeds blowing around, seeds in the air, but it's putting on some growth. So I'm gonna let it go, and we'll just see what happens. I've been watering it with everything else. But yeah, so hope you enjoyed the garden. And as soon as we get some of this stuff planted, which should be in the next week or so, as temperatures get above 50 degrees pretty regularly, we should be good to go. Everyone in Tennessee says, wait to plant until after Mother's Day. And I'm sitting here with my first year gardening, having the itch to plant these beautiful plants that I've grown. And I'm trying my hardest to wait. With that being said, we have some 30-degree nights coming up, 38-degree nights specifically, 2 in a row. And I know that I can't put these warm weather crops out and expect those to do well or thrive in that environment. So I am going to wait at least until those have passed. Not quite to Mother's Day, but it'll be close. So hopefully I don't regret my decision to go ahead and plant, but you know, I have plenty of plants left over if I need to replace them. So we will figure that out as we go. Thanks for joining me, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Go ahead and subscribe and hit that like button. Hit the bell for notifications when we'll be uploading. And as we go through the growing season, you'll get a little taste of what it looks like to grow just a small backyard vegetable garden of all different kinds of things. So I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.